The film begins with a man named Heller attempting to repair his damaged aircraft. His wife, Sarah, steps outside and urges him to come indoors. Once inside, Heller prepares a cup of coffee for her, and Sarah informs him she needs to travel to London for 5 days due to a work commitment. Although Heller isn't particularly happy about her leaving, he still accompanies her to the car and sees her off. After she departs, Heller proceeds to his workplace. He is employed as an analyst within a division of the CIA. At the office, he chats with a coworker who goes by the nickname The Bear. During their talk, The Bear asks Heller for assistance with a malfunctioning computer, and Heller agrees to help. It's established that Heller is exceptionally intelligent, possessing an IQ of 170. Later, he returns to his own office and begins reviewing some files. While doing so, he receives a message from an online contact using the alias Inquiline. The message contains confidential government material. As he scans through the data, unusual details start to catch his attention. Sarah calls him in the middle of this, and after a short conversation, he resumes reading. Upon opening the files in full, he uncovers a disturbing secret. Heller finds out that his own government-sanctioned drone strikes against allied countries. He also discovers that Director Moore and a man named Caleb were behind the operations. Shaken by this revelation, Heller leaves the office in a hurry. That evening he attempts to reach Sarah by phone, but she doesn't answer. The next day at work, Moore arrives at Heller's office and takes him to meet Director O'Brien. She delivers heartbreaking news. Sarah was killed in an attack. Moore presents a news broadcast and explains the details. Devastated, Heller returns home, struggling to comprehend her death. The following morning, he sits down with Moore and Caleb to discuss the incident, pressing them about what action they plan to take. Moore assures him that the situation is under control and there's no need for concern. A few days later, Sarah's body and personal items are flown back through the airport. At home, Heller sorts through her belongings and breaks down emotionally. In the days that follow, he continues to investigate the attack, meticulously going over all available information and reporting his findings to Moore and Caleb. He uncovers that 4 individuals were involved in the assault. During a scuffle with security, one attacker fatally wounded a guard. This triggered panic among the others, leading them to seize hostages in the airport's waiting area. Sarah was among them. The individual responsible for capturing Sarah was named Mishka Blajic, with another named Elish. While fleeing the scene, they killed Sarah. Eventually, the attackers disclosed the name of a dealer known as Frank. But when Heller relays this to Moore and Caleb, their lack of surprise raises suspicion. It dawns on Heller that they were already aware of the full scope of the event. When he confronts them, Moore admits that the real mission is to dismantle the entire network. He then orders Heller to attend a therapy session. During the session, Heller vents his frustrations, expressing confusion and anger over the government's lack of response. This marks a turning point. He decides he must take matters into his own hands. A few days later, Heller discreetly installs a bug inside his ID badge and sneaks back into the office. He prints out classified reports that expose Moore and Caleb's operations. Later, while sitting in a bar, he notices a CD jukebox, sparking a clever idea. The following day, Heller uses the printed files to blackmail Moore and Caleb. He warns them that he's made backup copies, and if anything happens to him, the evidence will be released to the public. He also demands the opportunity to personally pursue those behind Sarah's death and insists on being trained for the mission. Cornered, Moore agrees and assigns a man named Henderson to oversee Heller's training. During the sessions, Heller struggles. He can't even land a shot with a firearm, but he shows a natural aptitude for crafting explosives and improvised weapons. Henderson also forges new passports for him. Despite their progress, Henderson notices that even up close, Heller can't bring himself to shoot. Meanwhile, at CIA headquarters, Caleb begins growing suspicious. He starts combing through Heller's files and even searches his home, but comes up empty. Eventually, they notice Heller has been frequenting a specific bar. Thinking the backup data may be hidden there, they investigate and locate the jukebox. However, upon opening it, they realize Heller had been bluffing. There's nothing inside. Growing uneasy, they contact Henderson and order him to retrieve Heller at once. But when Henderson checks Heller's room at the training site, it's already empty. Heller has vanished, taking the fake passports with him. Using one of his new identities, Heller travels to London. There, he begins tailing a dealer named Gretchen Frank. He even breaks into her home in search of clues. When Gretchen returns, Heller points a gun at her, but once again, can't pull the trigger. Thinking fast, he devises a new approach. While Gretchen is in the hospital receiving care, Heller sneaks into her room and poisons the oxygen supply. She regains consciousness, escapes the hospital room, and briefly confronts Heller before fleeing outside. She's then hit by a moving vehicle and killed instantly. Heller grabs her phone and quickly leaves the scene. Without delay, he gathers his belongings and sets off for France. One evening at a bar, he notices someone following him. It's Henderson. Heller attempts to escape, but Henderson catches up. Using a distraction, Heller strikes up a conversation to buy time. Henderson tells him that no matter what he does, it won't bring Sarah back. As they speak, Heller quietly slips away. The next morning, he contacts his anonymous online source to request help. Soon after, he boards a flight to Istanbul, where he finally meets his mysterious contact, Inqualine. The two head to her safe house and begin tracking those responsible for the tragedy. Meanwhile, back at CIA headquarters, Director O'Brien starts suspecting that Moore may be hiding something. When she confronts him, Moore denies everything and pledges his full loyalty to her. As Moore exits her office, Director O'Brien suddenly recalls that it was he who had assigned Henderson to train Heller. Quietly, she initiates a covert probe into Henderson's actions. Meanwhile, at the safe house, Heller and Inqualine trace one of Sarah's killers to Madrid. Heller heads to the city and discovers that the target has a routine of swimming alone in a sky pool, a glass-bottomed pool suspended high above the ground. He engineers a device capable of breaking the glass structure. The next day, Heller confronts the man at the pool, demanding the identity of the second person responsible for Sarah's murder. When the killer refuses to speak, Heller triggers the device. The glass gives way, sending the man plummeting to his death along with the cascading water. At the same moment, Inqualine learns that Henderson is closing in on Heller and rushes to warn him. Heller attempts to escape, but just as Henderson closes in, a different CIA operative, secretly deployed by Director O'Brien, intervenes. A fierce hand-to-hand battle erupts between the agent and Henderson. Eventually, reinforcements arrive, and CIA operatives open fire, fatally shooting Henderson. Heller tries to turn back and help, but Inqualine urges him to keep going and not look back. Back at CIA headquarters, Director O'Brien becomes increasingly suspicious about Heller's whereabouts. Moore denies knowing anything and quickly walks away. Later, O'Brien reviews security footage from Madrid and spots a detail that implies Inqualine might be collaborating with Heller. The agency begins monitoring her and soon learns she's in Istanbul. They alert the local embassy and begin preparing a response. That same night, while Heller and Inqualine are asleep, CIA agents encircle their safe house. The noise wakes them and they flee, jumping into a car in an attempt to get away. During the high-speed chase, a bullet hits Inqualine, killing her on the spot. Heller takes control of the vehicle and speeds off to safety. Before he leaves, he stops for a moment to kiss her goodbye. A few days pass, and Heller receives a coded message from one of Frank's old contacts regarding an upcoming weapons deal. He agrees to supply the arms and uploads his facial signature into special software capable of disguising others to look like him. Unaware of the ruse, the CIA is tricked into thinking Heller is now in Berlin, prompting them to send operatives there. Meanwhile, Heller sets a trap for one of the assassins. He wires a bomb designed to explode if the target moves away from its position. When the man steps into the trap, Heller questions him and learns that the group's leader operates from a ship. After extracting the intel, Heller takes the assassin's phone and walks away. Moments later, the killer makes a move, triggering the device and dying in the blast. Around this time, the CIA realizes they've been chasing a decoy and pulls back from the Berlin mission. Heller makes his way to a Baltic seaport, where he starts observing suspicious deals being carried out around a massive ship. While keeping a low profile, he unexpectedly runs into Bear, a former colleague now also living off the grid. They reconnect briefly, with Bear expressing his full awareness of Heller's actions and his willingness to assist no matter the consequences. Several days later, Heller surveils another arms deal from a distance. He's spotted by the dealers, knocked out, and taken to their leader, a man named Slater. That night, Heller is brought aboard Slater's ship for a direct confrontation. Face to face, Heller accuses him of his illegal ties to Moore and Caleb. Slater taunts him, claiming Heller doesn't have the nerve to kill. To test him, Slater hands over a loaded gun and challenges him to pull the trigger. Heller raises the weapon but hesitates, unable to fire. Suddenly, the ship shifts direction on its own. Alarmed, Slater rushes to the controls, only to find Heller has hacked the navigation systems. Heller reveals the vessel is now sailing into Finnish territory and that he has already alerted Interpol and the Finnish Navy. Not long after, Slater and his crew are apprehended. In the aftermath, both Moore and Caleb are arrested for their involvement in the crimes. At last, Heller gets justice for Sarah and a sense of closure. In the final scene, Heller comes face to face with Henderson, still alive. He then takes one last flight in the small plane Sarah had once gifted him, feeling her presence once again. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment. Thank you.